Getting a surgery under any circumstances is going to be a scary thing. So I am going to share my experience in getting not one, but 2 surgeries in Taiwan. And hopefully that's going to help you be a little bit better prepared and ready to know what to expect if you do have a surgery in Taiwan. I actually planned to do one video titled Getting Surgery in Taiwan, but to be honest, getting emergency surgery and getting elective surgery is so different. There's so many different things that happen that I've decided I'm going to divide it into 3 different videos. So in the first one, it's going to be this one, which is the emergency surgery. The second one is going to be elective surgery. So if you're going to have elective surgery, you can skip this one and go straight to part 2. And then in part 3, I'm going to talk about hospital care, whether it's post-op hospital care or whether you're staying in the hospital for something else, just what to expect staying in a hospital and hospital care in Taiwan. Before I start, I have to give you a little bit of background information, okay? I have never had a surgery. I've never had an IV. I've never stayed in a hospital. I've never done blood work. I've never had anything related to anything with needles. In fact, I have a quite unreasonable fear of needles. If I only see someone getting an injection or an IV, even if it's on a movie or on TV, I most likely will pass out. So, getting an emergency surgery in Taiwan was both the most terrifying thing I have ever done in my life, but also the most liberating, because for the most part, it sort of cured that unreasonable fear I had for needles. So one morning I woke up and I had a bit of stomach pain. That ended up lasting the whole day. Finally I decided, well, I'll just go to the hospital and quickly pick up some pain meds. I mean, I even drove myself to the hospital. And surprise, surprise, 2 hours later I was being prepared for emergency surgery. Taiwan's national health insurance covers most of the costs when you visit hospitals in Taiwan. And if it doesn't cover that cost, your private health insurance will probably cover the rest of it if you have one. Prices may vary from hospital to hospital, but for a regular visit to the doctor, you're probably going to pay out of pocket 150 to 350 Taiwanese dollars plus your national health insurance. For an ER visit, it's probably going to cost you around $500 NT dollars out of pocket if you have the national health insurance. If you don't have national health insurance, an ER visit is probably going to cost you around 2,000 new Taiwan dollars, depending on which hospital you go to and also depending on what you have done. Okay, so I'm arriving at the ER, I walk in, there's a registry counter, so I go up to the registry counter, I give them my national health insurance. The nursing staff there ask me about my symptoms, they do a little bit of background checking. Keep in mind that I do speak Chinese, and although my Chinese isn't perfect, it was enough to navigate all of these questions. I think if you don't speak Chinese and you need to register at a hospital, it would be better for you to take someone with you to help you, because even though most hospitals, even the emergencies areas have people that speak English, when you're in pain or discomfort, it's really difficult to try and concentrate on what someone else is saying when they're translating something. So it's always better to take someone else with you, a friend or someone. Okay, so once you've done your pre-registration part, you get your little wristband and now you need to wait for the doctor. I'm not exactly sure how the waiting system works, but I imagine that in the ER, it's the most critical first. So if you're going in with something that isn't life-threatening, you may have to wait a bit longer. Patience is, of course, very important in these kind of situations. To be honest, at the time, I did not think I was in that much pain or discomfort, but the fact that my brain is distorting my memory of that evening might mean that I was in a lot worse condition than I thought I was. For example, I don't really remember how long I waited to see the doctor. It wasn't long. The doctor then came, she did a quick physical examination and she wanted to run a couple more tests. So remember when I said I had this crazy needle fear? Well, at this point they stabbed me with an IV, my first one ever. They also injected me with some kind of ink and then followed it with a CT scan. And this was all standard operating procedure if they suspect appendicitis. The ER has no private areas and no private rooms. So even though at this point I was given a bed to lay on, I was wheeled into the public hallway of the ER. But this didn't really bother me too much. A little while later, the doctor came back and she had the test results and her suspicions were confirmed. She said that I did have a very inflamed appendix and that I most likely would have to have it taken out. She had sent these test results to the surgeon who's on call for the evening, and they have to wait for his opinion. In the meantime, they wanted to do a couple of pre-op procedures with me just in case he wanted to take it out that evening. So while I was still in the ER, I got an EKG, I got a chest x-ray, and I also had some blood tests. I'm not 100% sure what they test for with the blood tests, but they do test for things that are related to the condition that you have. So they don't test for everything. And every ER visit will be different because every condition that you have will be different. After I did these things, I was wheeled upstairs and I was given the option of a room type that I would like to stay in. A single room will cost you 3,500 New Taiwan dollars per night out of pocket. A double room will cost you 2,000 New Taiwan dollars per night out of pocket. Or you can stay in a shared room, which is free or included in the national health insurance. The prices that I'm giving you is all if you have national health insurance. If you don't have Taiwan's national health insurance, these prices are going to change significantly. Once I settled in my room, the nurse came over with a stack of paperwork. Now, you can call it luck. I choose to believe that it's good karma that I happen to have a friend who is a surgeon in Taiwan. And right around this moment, she came to the hospital, which really helped because all of this paperwork, signing it and understanding it and reading it would have been very stressful. But she assured me that this was all standard operating procedure and that I can just go ahead and sign it and not worry too much about the fine print. That actually helped a lot. I trusted her and I signed all these papers. That being said, there are a few things that you need to pay attention to. The first thing, and probably the most important thing, which didn't apply to me, but it might apply to you, is making very sure that the nurses know, understand, and note down if you have any allergies. The second thing is you need to be honest about how much you drink. Your alcohol tolerance can have a direct effect on the anesthesia they give you. So tell them if you're a big drinker or if you drink moderately or how you drink. Also, if you have national health insurance and that applies to your surgery or you want to use that, make sure that you know what is covered by the national health insurance and what is not covered by the national health insurance. So with national health insurance, to get my appendix taken out, it would be a big cut on my abdomen, but I wouldn't have to pay anything else out of pocket. Or I could pay an extra 8,000 New Taiwan dollars out of pocket for a laparoscopic procedure, which would be only 3 very small incisions. Depending on the surgery you get, you may also have to pay other costs. So make sure when you see the money amounts that you know what you're paying and what the national health insurance is going to cover. When all the paperwork was done, I got to change into the standard surgical outfit, which is basically a bed sheet back to front with your backside completely open and you are completely naked. The nurse then came and she removed my nail polish, which was kind of interesting. But they do put like a heart monitor thingy on your finger. And if you have nail polish on, that might give a false reading, which could be problematic. After that, I was wheeled into the OR. On my way to the OR, I saw some of the surgical team and they recognized me. I used to have 2 restaurants in Xindian, so that's why they recognized me, which was kind of strange, but also relatively comforting in a sense. I was, however, extremely terrified at this point, but, it was comforting that there was someone there that I knew. As soon as I got into the OR, most of the surgical team were already there, dressed and ready to go. And My hand almost immediately started burning. When I looked over, they were already injecting propofol into my IV, and I was knocked out so quick I didn't even have a chance for another thought. Propofol is, of course, the drug that Michael Jackson took to sleep, and I can confirm that it was by far the best sleep I have ever had. Waking up after the surgery, your throat might hurt a little bit from the track tube that they put in. My bottom lip also had like a big bump, like someone punched me, and I guess that was from like surgical tape to keep the tracheal tube in place. They may also put some ointment on your eyes, so if you wake up and you can't see, don't worry, you're not going blind. You just have to wipe your eyes clean from this ointment. After the surgery, you'll be kept in the post-op room for a little while until you're mostly awake, and then you'll be wheeled back into your room. Most hospitals will ask you to have someone there to help take care of you, and also a contact person. After the surgery, I stayed in hospital for about 5 days. If you have time in the hospital after that you need to stay there, you need to make sure that someone brings you food. If that is not possible, you need to make it very clear to them that you want meals when you are admitted to the hospital. Some hospitals include that into their hospital stay costs, and some don't. So you might have to pay for meals additionally. Also, very, very important, ask for painkillers. Lots of people complain that the nurses are stingy with painkillers, and maybe they are, but you need to keep asking for the pain meds, and they will give it to you, but you have to ask for it. Everything related to staying in the hospital, I will discuss in part 3 of this video series. To be honest, I did the laparoscope option, and 8 hours after my surgery, I took myself off the pain meds. I mean, it hurt, but it was very manageable. Unlike my elective surgery, which was absolutely excruciating. In fact, I would do an emergency surgery 10 times over before I do another elective surgery. Not just because of the pain, but because of the drawn-out process and the anticipation weeks prior to your elective surgery. Finally, you might wonder what happened to my car. Remember I said I drove myself to the hospital? Well, I actually parked in the hospital parking. And then I found out that the hospital that I was at, and quite possibly all the hospitals in Taiwan, give you a very special rate for long-term parking. So I ended up only paying about 100 NT or 120 new Taiwan dollars for about a 5 or 6 day parking. So 100 or 120 per day for 5 or 6 days. So if you are going to park in the hospital, or if you need to park your car consecutive days in the hospital, check with the administration staff of the hospital that you are at to see if they have special rates for longer periods of parking.